Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. This time we're taking a look at House of Horrors, but we're going to be going a little bit deeper than just a simple reading of the book.
Yeah, it's a really interesting book because it's not just a straightforward haunted house story.
Right, so we have Ewan Holt, he's the author, and he writes this really creepy account of what happened to him and his family when they were living at Baneberry Hall.
And the book is super popular, right? Like a lot of people think it's totally true.
Exactly. But then you have Ewan's daughter, Maggie.
Ah, yes, Maggie.
She inherits Baneberry Hall years later, and she starts to question, like, wait a minute.
Yeah, she's like, this doesn't add up. Some of the things my dad wrote about, they don't match my memories at all.
And it's not just like, oh, I remember it being scarier or whatever. It's like specific things.
Give me an example. What kind of things?
Okay, so like in the book, Ewan says they left all this stuff behind when they fled the house.
Right.
Like in a panic.
Yeah.
But when Maggie goes back, all that stuff is there, like perfectly placed.
That's pretty suspicious. So was he just making stuff up to make the story better? Or was there something else going on?
Right. Like, was he trying to hide something?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have this whole other thing that makes you wonder.
What's that?
The disappearance of Petra Dittmer.
Oh, yeah, Petra. I'd almost forgotten about that part of the story.
So Petra was a teenager who lived in the area, and she vanished the same night the Holts ran away from Baneberry Hall.
Whoa. Okay, that's creepy. So it's not just a haunted house story anymore. Now we have a missing person.
Exactly. And it makes you question everything, right? Was Petra's disappearance connected to what happened to the Holts?
Yeah, was there something more going on than just some spooky ghosts?
So Maggie decides to do some investigating herself. She talks to people who are in the book. She looks at old documents.
Really digging deep, huh?
Oh, yeah. And she finds out that some really messed up stuff happened at Baneberry Hall, even before her family moved in.
Okay, so this house has a history, like a dark history.
For sure. And it seems like there might be more to the story than just what Ewan wrote in his book.
So it's kind of like we're following Maggie's investigation, right? We start out believing Ewan's story, but then as Maggie learns more, we start to question everything too.
Exactly. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Ooh, and I bet it gets even juicier, right?
Oh, yeah. And then comes the big twist. Remember those loose floorboards Ewan talked about fixing in the book?
Yeah, wasn't that in like the indigo room or something?
Yep. Well, guess what they find hidden under those floorboards?
Oh, no, don't tell me.
A skeleton. And they identify it as Petra Dittmer.
Whoa, hold on. So now it's a murder mystery.
It sure looks that way. And then Maggie starts learning about this other family, the Carvers. They owned Baneberry Hall before the Holts.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Curtis Carver, the father, was accused of murdering his daughter, Katie.
No way. So two families, both with daughters, and something terrible happens to both of them in the same house.
Yeah, and it gets even creepier. Maggie finds all these hidden notes, like someone was desperately searching for Petra.
So someone knew something. But who?
Well, the notes seem to point to Ewan. Like maybe he knew more than he was letting on.
This is getting really twisted. So the author, the guy who wrote the book about being terrified of the haunted house, he might be involved in a murder.
It's a crazy twist, right? And that's not even the end of it. Now we have to talk about Indigo Garson.
Indigo? Who's that?
She was the daughter of the original owner of Baneberry Hall, and her death was shrouded in mystery.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What happened to her?
Well, the details are a little murky, but it seems like her death might be connected to all the other bad things that have happened at Baneberry Hall.
So Indigo is like the original ghost. Like maybe she's the one behind all the creepy stuff?
Maybe. And get this, Maggie starts to think that Indigo's ghost might be influencing fathers to harm their daughters.
Okay, hold up. So now we're talking about a ghost that can actually make people do bad things?
It's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Right? And that leads to one of the most terrifying parts of the book. Maggie has this encounter, this confrontation, that makes her believe Indigo's influence is real and it's dangerous.
Oh, man, that's intense. What happens? Does she see Indigo?
We'll have to get into that a little later. But this encounter is what makes the Holts run away from Baneberry Hall again.
So they're running away from a ghost that might be making people hurt their kids.
It's more complicated than that, but yeah. They leave everything behind, just like they did all those years ago.
This is wild. So we have a haunted house, a missing girl, a possible murder, and a vengeful ghost. What else could this book possibly throw at us?
Well, you won't believe this, but years later, Maggie gets a letter from her father. And in that letter, he confesses everything.
Everything? Like what?
He admits that Petra's death was an accident, a terrible accident, and that he made up the whole haunted house story to cover it up.
Oh my God, so he lied about everything to protect his family.
Exactly. And now Maggie has to decide what to do with this information. Does she tell the truth, or does she keep her father's secret?
This is heavy stuff. I can't believe Ewan did all that. But I guess I can understand why. It's a parent's worst nightmare, right? Losing a child.
Absolutely. And his actions had consequences for everyone, not just his own family.
It makes you think, doesn't it? What would you do in that situation? Would you risk everything to tell the truth?
It's a tough question.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive into all of that and more when we come back.
Wow, so Ewan's confession really changes everything, doesn't it? It wasn't ghosts, it was, well, him. Like, he created this whole haunted house thing to cover up what happened to Petra.
Yeah, it turns out it was a total accident. According to Ewan's letter, it happened on July 15th, the night they ran away from Baneberry Hall.
July 15th, got it.
He and his wife decided to go out, like for a date night, which, understandable. They'd been dealing with a lot of weird stuff in the house.
Right, they probably needed a break.
Totally. So they hired Petra to babysit Maggie.
Petra. But wait, wasn't she banned from the house after that weird sleepover thing?
Yeah, she was. So they knew she'd have to sneak in, which is, well, kind of messed up in hindsight.
Yeah, I mean, they were asking for trouble.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ewan and his wife, they check into this motel, try to relax, enjoy their night off.
A little escape from the haunted house, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They get back to Baneberry Hall around midnight, feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
But then they walk inside, and it's like total chaos.
Oh, no. What happened?
Maggie is just hysterical, crying her eyes out. And Petra is gone, vanished.
I bet that was terrifying for them.
Oh, absolutely. So Ewan starts searching the whole house, the grounds, calling Petra's name, and eventually...
It finds her.
Yeah. In the woods, at the bottom of that stone wall that surrounds the property.
Oh, God. So she fell.
That's what Ewan says. He claims she fell through the hole in the floor of the indigo room, the one he was supposed to be fixing.
Those loose floorboards, yeah.
No.
It's like we knew something bad was going to happen there.
I know, right? It's like the house itself was just waiting to claim another victim.
So what did Ewan do?
Well, he was obviously freaking out. He knew they had to leave Baneberry Hall, but he was also terrified of what would happen if the truth came out.
I can only imagine.
So he makes this terrible decision. He hides Petra's body under the floorboards in the indigo room.
Oh my God, no way.
Yeah. And then he convinces his wife that the house is too dangerous, too haunted, and they had to get out, like right now.
So they just run away, leaving all their stuff behind.
Exactly. And to make their story believable, Ewan starts making stuff up about the haunting. He uses everything he knows about the house's history to weave this whole elaborate lie.
So he basically created a ghost story to cover up an accident.
Yeah, and it worked. People believed him. They even gave an interview to the local paper, never once mentioning Petra.
It's kind of brilliant in a twisted way.
It is. It gets even crazier. The story of the haunted Baneberry Hall blows up. Ewan gets a book deal, writes House of Horrors, and it becomes a bestseller.
So he becomes famous for a lie.
Exactly. But it came at a huge cost. The guilt, the constant lying, it destroyed his marriage. They ended up getting separated.
That's so sad. He tried to protect his family, but it ended up hurting them anyway.
Right. Like, what's the saying? The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So Ewan's lie worked for a while, but it eventually caught up with him. And now Maggie has to deal with the fallout.
Exactly. And not just Maggie, right? What about Petra's family? They deserve justice.
Totally. Ewan robbed them of the chance to grieve properly, to find closure.
And it brings up all these ethical questions, right? Like, how far would you go to protect your family?
It's a tough one, and the book doesn't give us easy answers.
No, it definitely doesn't. And there's still the whole question of the supernatural, right?
Oh, yeah, we can't forget about that. Like, what about all those creepy things that happened to Maggie while she was renovating the house?
Exactly. And Dane, Maggie's boyfriend, he had some weird experiences too.
So maybe there was something else going on at Baneberry Hall. Maybe Ewan wasn't completely lying about the haunting.
Maybe. And that's what we're going to talk about when we come back. It's like her whole world just got flipped upside down.
Yeah.
Like everything she thought she knew about her childhood, about that summer at Baneberry Hall, it was all based on a lie.
It's got to be so hard to process something like that. Like to find out that your dad, the person you're supposed to be able to trust, created this whole elaborate story to hide a terrible secret.
And it wasn't just about protecting himself and his wife.
Yeah.
Right? There's Petra's family to consider too. They spent years searching for her, holding on to hope that maybe she was still alive.
And because of Ewan's lie, they were robbed of closure. They couldn't grieve properly. They couldn't hold anyone accountable.
It's just so heartbreaking, to think about what they went through because of Ewan's actions.
It really makes you think about the ripple effect of our choices. Like, even when we think we're doing the right thing, sometimes our actions can have unintended consequences that hurt other people.
So Maggie's in this really tough spot. She knows the truth, but what does she do with it? Does she expose her father, even though he's sick and probably doesn't have much time left?
It's a huge dilemma. On one hand, you have the desire for justice for Petra and her family. But on the other hand, there's loyalty to your own family, the fear of causing more pain.
And it's not an easy decision. There's no clear right or wrong answer. It's like, how do you balance the need for truth with the need to protect the people you love?
Right. And I think the book does a really good job of exploring that gray area. Like, it's not just black and white, good versus evil. It's messy and complicated, just like real life.
Totally. And I think that's why this story is so fascinating, because it forces us to confront these difficult questions. It makes us think about what we would do in a similar situation.
And then there's the whole supernatural element, right? Like, we can't forget about that.
Right. We were talking about all the creepy things that happened to Maggie and Dane while they were at Baneberry Hall.
So is it possible that Ewan wasn't totally making stuff up? Like, maybe there really was something else going on in that house.
Maybe. And the more Maggie learns about Baneberry Hall's history, the more she starts to think that Indigo Garson, the daughter of the original owner, might be connected to all the bad things that have happened there.
Oh, yeah, Indigo. What was her story again?
Well, the details are a little fuzzy, but it seems like her death was pretty mysterious. And there are all these rumors that her spirit is still trapped in the house.
And now maybe starting to think that Indigo might be the one influencing fathers to harm their daughters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is a terrifying thought, right? Like, what if there's this force out there that can actually manipulate people into doing terrible things?
It's definitely creepy. And it makes you wonder if there's more to the world than we can see or understand.
For sure. And I think that's one of the things that makes House of Horrors such a compelling read. It blends the real and the supernatural in a way that's both unsettling and thought-provoking.
It keeps you guessing until the very end. Like, is it a ghost story, a psychological thriller, a family drama? It's all of those things and more.
Exactly. And I think it really gets under your skin. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about the world, about the people around you, even about yourself.
And that's the mark of a truly great story, right? That stays with you long after you've finished reading it.
Absolutely. So if you're looking for a book that will keep you up at night, that will make you think about the nature of truth and the power of the past, then definitely check out House of Horrors. You won't be disappointed.
And let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your theories and reactions to this twisted and fascinating tale.
Until next time, happy reading.